Greetings and welcome to another episode of our Vim Cloud Talk. In actual fact, this is our third installment. We have a very intriguing topic which has good relevance to how organization can leverage on technology to survive through the current and the post-pandemic period. I guess everyone is anxiously looking forward to that day where the post-pandemic period is coming about, right? So a quick introduction of myself. My name is Raymond Go. I'm your host for today. If that's not obvious enough, on a work and job perspective, I run the system engineering team for Veeam Software for Asia, part of the overall APJ theater. So here goes the topic of concern or the topic of interest that we're going to talk about today: enabling greater business agility and scalability in a multi-cloud world. So the three keywords in that topic over there, if I were to break it down: agility, scalability, and multi-cloud. As important as the topic of concern, I think a more important factor into this discussion will be the relevance of our invited guest speaker, who has been on the ground implementing cloud automation processes, planning for cloud migration, understanding what success looks like, and where are the pitfalls in the multi-cloud approach. So thus, it's my pleasure to have our guest speaker for today, Surendra. If I may address you as Surin or by your nickname, the global head of cloud and automation from British American Tobacco, joining us today. So let's get the ball rolling, and we can start with Surin, telling more about yourself, as well as a slight bit more serious discussion into how BAT is managing its IT direction during this pandemic period. Surin, please.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Raymond, and thank you for the brief introduction. As Raymond said, my name is Surendra Subramaniam, known well by all my peers as Surin. I am the global head for cloud and automation out at British American Tobacco. Right. A little bit about myself. I've been doing IT infrastructure for the past 18 years, and uh, have been exposed to quite a bit of the infrastructure journey, right from data center to virtualization to private clouds, public clouds, and hybrid clouds, right? So I've had the opportunity to go through the journey and understand and also implement most of those technologies that came along this journey, right? Before that, I had my education in the United States, lived there for about 11 years, came back to Malaysia in 2001, and have been here being part of the IT infra world ever since. Yeah. Some of the organizations I've had the opportunity to work with and work for has been the likes of Siemens IT Services, Dell, HPE, Microsoft, and to name a few, and now with BAT, right? In between, I've done quite a few consultations and I would say engagements with a few telcos and local companies, right? Now, to the key question that all of us are actually facing, the pandemic, right? Wow, what a way to change the way we've been working unexpectedly, right? Same time last year, I was in the US attending the AWS event. I was in Vegas, right? And lo and behold, came back January, February, and life starts to take a change, right? Like
Yeah.
a toss of a coin, right? And
Mhm.
and 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 this is an abrupt uh, uh, in situation that hit all of us in the way we actually engage and run our organizations, right? And I think the key essence is how quick you turn around and how agile your organization is to actually adapt this. And it's very difficult. The bigger your organization is, the more challenges you have, right?
Mm.
People's way of life is impacted, family, kids, school. It's just not the enterprise, right? It's our lives, right?
Mm.
It's not about you staying home and working how it was before, but this time you're going to be sharing your workspace with your kids.
Mm.
You see your family more. You actually spend more time working if you guys all agree with me, right? Your personal time and break times are narrowed down to personal time, right? Uh, to be honest, I really miss the coffee times with my peers, going out for lunch, having the little exercise of walking to the restaurant or to the cafe, right?
Mhm.
Well, now it's your years takes a beating, right? So you got to give your
Mm.
years a break, right? But how did BAT, such a huge global organization, just agilely change and adapted to this? We are FMCG, we
Mm.
have factories. How do the factories work, right? And how did the people go in and out with the restrictions, right? How do we actually continuously operate in these pandemic times? And the question and the answer to this is pretty much the people, the culture, right?
Mm.
BAT has a great culture of leveraging, right? We leverage from people, we leverage from the existing teams, we leverage from our processes. So that gives you a different light into why processes exist, right? This is the time, right? This is where you put a litmus test, I would say, to your
Mm.
processes, right? Do I need to be there to get something done? Do I need to be there physically, face to face, to make a decision, right? Yes, we do miss the FaceTime. We do miss that physical appearance. Yes, it's sometimes more um I would say effective, right, to see someone face to face. But what is the objective here, right?
Mm.
Continuity, business continuity, right? Making sure your enterprise achieves its goals, go through its journey, and achieve its strategy, no matter what the challenges comes up for. So my one takeaway is the culture, right? BAT has a very strong foundation and culture, right? And we leverage, we are adaptive, right? And pretty much we don't dictate that, right? The government, CMCO, and SOPs dictate how we actually
Mm.
operate, right?
Mm.
But one part that besides culture is the organization's support, the management support to give you the
Mm.
tools, right? And to actually focus on your employees' health and employees' wellness. That's another
Mm.
area that BAT actually focused on, right?
Mm.
We have now, for example, key fundamental break times that nobody is allowed to take or book up an appointment or have a call,
Mm.
right? That's for us to sit down and think about what we can do to improve, right? Because when you're on a call, you're always working on something that's already pending, right? BAT said that, hey, you need to take a time to think, right? Sit down and think about improvement. Think about how to make your life better. It's just
Mm.
not about work. It's a totality, right? So
Yep.
BAT has been very encouraging in terms of that. So the takeaway is the culture of the organization is very critical. The support from the management on your people and your employees, which is your major asset, right?
Mhm.
And also helping set the standards for time management. I think that's pretty much what helped us go through this pandemic storm. If
Surin,
Yeah.
you absolutely make sense over there, right? Same sentiments in Veeam. We kind of hold very strongly to the core values, which is kind of builds the culture of the company, right? And that's really important, especially when you mention things whereby quick adaptation of the changes that's coming by is exactly what we have been experiencing through the year. Throughout the year, things has always been changing. So quick adaptation, totally agree on that. Mixing your family work-life balance, that's also something that's unavoidable because we have to work from home, right? So doing the balancing act on our own individual as well as company that's very supportive. Management, as you said, is very supportive in providing the work-life balance for people to be able to work as efficiently from home at the same time to enable the interaction with your colleagues and your team members really makes sense, right? And last but not least, you bring up a really good point. There's always an objective that we are trying to drive at. There's always a goal that we are trying to achieve. Making sure that we are still on track of this goal has to be in everyone's mind. There's still a team. You're not working individually, right? Even though, yep, you're working at home, but there's still a team and a company goal that we are trying to achieve, trying to make sure that we are on track. So, Surin, thanks for that, for setting the kind of the context to get into a deeper discussion. So, with regards to the topic of multi-cloud approach, um, why do you think organizations should be adopting a multi-cloud approach?
Well, to be honest, I don't uh, say that every organization needs to adapt multi-cloud. Let's just talk about cloud, right? Cloud is not a one size fits all solution to take away your problems. Yeah, we need to first understand what cloud brings to the table, right? Or before what any solution brings to the table is, and also for us to assess whether these benefits or these functions that any solution like cloud in this perspective, right, brings to your organization, right? So if your organization, and there is organizations, don't get me wrong, that don't require to be agile, fast moving, scalable. Uh, I mean, everyone's cost sensitive, so we'll take cost out of the picture, right? I mean,
Mhm.
because cost is a different driver, and different stakeholders in an organization drives the cost topic, right? But talk about technology advancements and things like I just mentioned. So first of all, we need to assess, are we going to utilize it, right? Because it's an entire mindset change, right? A lot of people don't understand that by you moving or taking the journey to the cloud, it actually impacts the entire organization, right? Not just the cloud and IT guys or the operational guys. It touches procurement, touches legal, right? It touches all partners, the partner management, because the way we do things in cloud is fast, quick, with controls and governance. A lot of people don't understand that as well, right? It's not about you going to self-service and let somebody just go and deploy something, or if I might say, because everything that you do, we charge by the minute, right?
Mhm.
Right. So if you go ahead and deploy things without any control, any governance, that bill shock, they would say, by management is just going to
Mhm.
hit you. And then the whole concept of cloud is just going to go out from the stakeholders and say, hey, I don't think so. Cloud's the way. But that's an after fact,
Mhm.
right? Once you go to the cloud, you take things out from on-prem and go to cloud. It's not like you can move it back to cloud and just do this, right? And
Exactly.
trust me, there are some. Yeah, trust me, Raymond. I think you probably have met a few, decision makers that feel that can be done, right? So let's take a experiment, and let's move production, and then if it doesn't work, and move it back. Well, we might get there 5 6 years from today, right? But
Mhm.
today, it's about making sure that the cloud fits you. So that's number one,
Mhm.
right? Organizations that don't require the few things that I mentioned, nothing wrong. Why fix something that's not broken, right?
Mhm.
And then we have now new rules like GDPR, data sovereignty, data residency, right? You have security coming very big time into the cloud technology landscape and space. So we got to assess,
Mhm.
right? Now let's take a scenario where you're already on the cloud, right?
Mhm.
And now you want to get more from the cloud, right? From my experience in dealing with different clouds, cost is one area where people actually go and sign up or engage with a cloud provider, right? So
Mhm.
again, that's why I want to put cost aside. What I want to share with everyone here is the functionality and features of the virtual appliances
Mhm.
do vary, right? um, Maybe that's changed today, but in my experiences of doing a few migrations, application load balances between what they have in at a network layer between AWS and Azure is different,
Mhm.
right? A WAF, right?
Mhm.
So just to name a few, right? Not to get too technical, but because of this variation,
Mhm.
one is better in a certain scenario or in a certain
Mhm.
application. Let's
Mhm.
like take analytics, big buzzword today, right? Data
Yep.
science analytics, right? It's about that organization or that cloud provider investing in certain areas to give you the best of data analytics. It's going to be hard, and I think some principles out there might challenge me. Is you know, are you able to invest in every area, right, and become the best in everything that you provide? Now,
Mhm.
I found it a little bit difficult, investing in different technologies at the same speed, at the same amount. We had to
Mhm.
choose something.
Yep.
So similarly, I'm sure these principles, AWS, Google, and Azure, those really smart guys out there are going to focus on certain areas where they feel where the demand is,
Mhm.
right? So now we as customers, we got to be smart to leverage the best out of all these guys,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Hence, we look at multi-cloud,
Yep.
right? So we look at multi-cloud to see, hey, if I need a better high availability, and I have a different requirement between an application that is very data centric versus an application that's very file serverish, I would say,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Or maybe
Yeah.
just a fronting web, right? Uh, hey, they're out there, right? Leverage, right? Let your architecture guys come out and tell you what's the best way to actually utilize this multi-cloud. So my concept is when I talk to my stakeholders is what's our scenario? What's our
Mm.
objectives? Do we want to utilize this, and this? Now, the architects that I have, multi-cloud guys, you tell me how it's going to be done, right?
Mm.
Because I want to attain a certain flexibility for my stakeholders or even my customers, my internal customers, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So what drives our decision criteria towards multi-cloud.
Mm. Serene, I kind of really like what you. It has to be a constant reminder on that one size doesn't fit all from a multi-cloud perspective, right? So I think everyone kind of sometimes jump to the bandwagon because of pressure point, whereby the rest of the other competitors are doing so. I should be following suit. But as what you mentioned,
Yeah,
right, mapping that or having an objective to start the planning, kind of reverse engineering to start the planning to make sure that again the goal and the objective of the stakeholders or company wide is embarking on, and how does cloud help in that journey, right, into the overall. It could be a holistic digital transformation journey. It could be a cloud journey that we're looking at, but the end objective is really important, right? So yep, totally agree. From our perspective in Veeam, right? We help a lot of our customers in managing the data. So firstly, when we talk to our customers, we do set some kind of baselining. You definitely need to modernize your data center. And what do you mean by modernizing your data center, right? It's in the stage whereby you need to embrace hybrid cloud technology. That's the
yeah,
first thing that has come into the mind, right? Whether you're doing it right now, if not, you should be, or you should plan to have the hybrid cloud methodology, right?
yep,
And through some execution plan, this is really a necessity and is not a good to have. Just to kind of give our audience over here kind of that baseline again. Secondly, and Serene, you mentioned that very clearly too, the best of breed cloud services. All organizations are built differently. All cloud
absolutely.
providers are viewed very differently, right? As you mentioned, the hyperscaler, right? AWS, Azure, as well as Google Cloud, they have different aspects of what they are good at, what they are niche
Yep,
at. And again, to map that back into the business objective, which are the cloud providers? It need not be a public cloud environment if you're concerned, whereby from the compliance and security aspects or the governance GDPR aspects that you need data to be contained within the data sovereignty. You can also go for a managed cloud service provider, that trusted local service provider,
absolutely.
working together with the hyperscaler. That is kind of a multi-cloud strategy too, right? So,
Yep,
kind of what we usually advise from an outcome perspective, why organization adopt that multi-cloud approach. That question again, we break it down. Not exactly break it down. We give the triple A, the three A in terms of why and the objective of multi-cloud approach, right? The first will be agility, with respect to what Veeam is helping customers managing the data. Data agility. Your data has to be available anytime at anywhere. That's where the cloud can take to spaces whereby you're not even there, but it's very close to your customers, close to your partners, or close to your employees right now that's working from home. So data agility. Second part, data availability, to make sure that your data is always there. The
yeah,
uptime is maintained, your data loss is kept to the minimum. So there's data availability. And last but not least, the most important part of things is to propel or provide you with the business acceleration, right? All the things that we do, data agility, data availability, going to the hybrid cloud or the multi-cloud, it has to accelerate the business with the goal of, again, the digital transformation, or just modernizing your IT environment to make it a lot more efficient, to make it a lot more productive for your users or your customers and your employees that's kind of working on the remote front, right? All right. So thanks for that. I'll probably dig into kind of tracing back, take a step back, right? What are the major blockers or challenges? I'll put it. What are the major challenges for enterprises when it comes to multi-cloud strategy?
okay. Again, I guess it's about laying the foundation of what the objectives are in the organization, right? So you have to start
Mm,
with a strategy. right? So
mm,
where do you want to take your organization to, right?
mm,
And having the experience of actually implementing a multi-cloud environment. Some of the key learnings that I learned is one of the things that I shared with you, right? We realized
mm,
that we required a multi-cloud because when we did a migration onto a certain cloud,
mhm,
and we had to do a few rollbacks, and we're like, well, why is this rollback happening, right? And then it's just that we had to find a workaround solution to that rollback. So we
mm,
step back and say, hey, let's explore another cloud provider and see whether we need to do a workaround, or if their appliance or their technology is able to take it, as a simple lift and shift from on-prem right out to the cloud. And we
mm,
realized there is. So that was one learning, right? So
mhm,
that was a learning on the ground. Okay. The other
mm,
thing is, once you go to multi-cloud, right? How are you going to operate? No, what's the operating model? Are you going to consolidate the operating model to a single pane of glass, or are you going to
mm,
have two separate teams that's going to operate? So obviously, your organizer is going to say that, hey, I don't want to have a replica of the entire team. So why can't we have one team that manages across the cloud? I'll say, yeah, that's a good idea. So how are we going
mhm,
to gel them together? Here comes the technology called the CMP, right?
mm,
So cloud management platform became a big, huge business, right? We have
mm,
players out there like I think Right Scale, I think Scala. I think a lot of guys got even acquired by the big boys because they felt that that was the future, right? So
yep,
those
yep,
niche guys, got their companies, just got highly valued. I mean, appraised, and they got bought over because they brought value, right? They brought value that, hey, you could connect any of your clouds onto a single pane of glass
mhm,
and monitor, right? So multi-cloud could be 3 clouds, 4 clouds, anything more than one. And they
mm,
extended even to the hybrid, right? The hybrid's
mm,
the way today, right? Because
mm,
now we have brought cloud technologies to on-prem.
mm,
Fantastic, right?
yep,
And
yep,
we as customers today, we get to leverage on all these technologies, pick and choose, right,
mhm,
from a menu, which fits our flavor that we require, our favorite, dish, right? But it's
mm,
not as easy as just keep changing it. But hey, if I like to focus on a certain technology with this cloud, then this is how it's going to be, and I get to see it on a single pane of glass, right?
yep,
Everything's there, so fantastic. But what's the flip side of it?
mm,
Chances is you want to manage these multi clouds in terms of security, in terms of compliance, in terms
mm,
of you know uh, deployment. Well,
mm,
I need everybody to know that you would lose the native functions when you go through a CMP, because 3MP you will have to work through an API. You got to invest in third-party tools that be
mhm,
able to be multi-cloud enabled. So
mm,
that's the flip side, right? So
mm,
so so before we embark in a multi-cloud, you got to be prepared whether you have not just the budget to get into a multi-cloud and invest in the CMP,
mhm,
but do you have funds now to invest in the tools,
mm,
right? If you want it on a single pane of glass, because obviously, let's take Alibaba's features will not be able to deploy onto AWS and AWS into Azure and Azure into Google. So now
mm,
that gives the birth of these third-party security guys on every function or every layer of our infrastructure to provide
mhm,
something built maybe from an API perspective that's able to actually reach out, gather data, pull data, and push policies in this case to the multi-cloud.
mm,
So planning for that, again, the objective, what we're going to achieve. So you need to have someone with experience on actually deploying that multi-cloud to actually know that. And fortunately enough, I was put into the war zone to learn that the hard way. Right.
mhm,
So before I go and tell another organization to get to multi-cloud, we can find different ways based on your appetite, right? Do we have a
mm,
budget to buy more tools? No. Okay. So what we can do is let's build an API platform instead within our organizations to pull data, right?
mm.
And then let's put dashboard. So there's many ways to do it. So assessment, objective, roadmap, very critical.
So, Surin, that's exactly what your department is kind of helping BAT right now, right? As well as the advice
Absolutely.
that is given from a planning perspective. That's really important to know what you're getting into the cloud. There are still workloads, there are still services that is better in the cloud. As what you mentioned, not everyone kind of fit into the cloud environment, but you do have a choice to choose which one you want to go to.
Absolutely.
There are also workloads or services that's still appropriate on-prem. So
Yep.
that's where the hybrid cloud deployment is coming in, right? So that planning and yep, I do hear a lot of requests for those who are starting off to go into the journey of cloud, have the migration in mind, not just a pure migration of workloads into the cloud, but the planning of the workloads, the resources that you need, and the data aspects of things, and the central management. That's where automation comes in, right? I mean, going to the cloud is as good as getting the automation to be from an orchestration workflow standpoint to be consistent through API integration that you mentioned earlier on, that can build a central management portal for all the different technologies. Kind of putting them together is not an easy job. Obviously, it's not an easy job. It requires a lot of skill sets. It requires not just within your department. You can always look into vendors out there that has the experience in doing that to help you out on that. So on that note itself, if I may add, some of the challenges that when we spoke to customers, in actual fact, we do our yearly report for our customers and to get a feedback, right, on what do they feel when it comes to roadblocks that they are having, a big rocks that they have to shift and move into the cloud environment, right? So the top three, there are multiple challenges that has surfaced. What we hear on the top three challenges, which is also something that you mentioned earlier on, Sureen, will be firstly the cyber threat. So cyber threat remains kind of one of the top most important thing that they're concerned with, a challenge that
Absolutely.
they have to face, especially now in the cloud, right? Where in the cloud, whereby data are sprawled across everywhere. How do you manage and control the data in a very secure way? The second very interesting feedback that they get is the shortage of skills to implement technology. I think the team that you're working on has a different set of skill sets from probably the operational data center team, or probably different from the application development team. So a team that is specially built to cater for that orchestration and integration of all the workloads. At the same time, the experience to know which are the right cloud providers to embark into. So the skill sets is kind of the second challenges that they face, saying that I do not have the skill sets that I have within my environment. I need to build them up. I need to kind of get people in or resources in to do that. Obviously, again, you can have your service provider or the trusted partners to help you out on that. And the third challenges that they mentioned is meeting um, dynamic changes, the customer need changes, especially this year. The changes from a customer needs perspective is totally some organization couldn't expect the change. And as you mentioned earlier on, right, this change comes in like a fast storm that some organization cannot take it. Some organization has taken it really well and it propelled the business even further than the pre-pandemic days, right? So these are the three challenges that we hear from our customers. And other noteworthy kind of dependency challenges will be legacy system
Yeah.
that is tough to move into the cloud, right? So you're thinking of, should I get rid of this? But this is critical and core system that I've been using for the last 15 years. How should I be kind of catering that into part of my multi-cloud strategy? Budget, as you mentioned, putting budget aside, obviously there's always a budget that we need to work on, but putting budget aside, try to meet the business goal, and then we'll take a look at the back-end budget and we get justification to build that in, right? And then other things will be like lack of time to do things and lack of buy-in from the senior management. As you mentioned earlier on, senior management buy-in, stakeholders buy-in, to make sure that all of us in the whole organization are on the same kind of track and expectation when going to the multi-cloud strategy. All right, sounds good. Sounds good. I think that's really deep into the challenges, and probably we have a few more questions. If I may have the third question over here, talking about cyber threat, talking about security. What are the main security consideration that you need to factor in for a multi-cloud environment?
I think it's a very good point. It's just not multi-cloud. If you are going to embark on cloud,
Mm,
or not even cloud, today with the advancement of security and whatever, and the exposure and awareness that we have, first thing you got to look at is protecting your data,
mhm,
right? There are fantastic organizations out there. One that I represent, which is the Cloud Security Alliance out of Malaysia,
mm,
ISAC. Bodies like that have done amazing work with task groups and forums and just to share what are the latest threats out there and how you're supposed to mitigate it, right? So
mm,
the little bit that we uh, that I've learned is you have ways to encrypt data at rest. You have
mm,
ways to encrypt or secure data at transit, right? In cloud, you have to totally understand the shared responsibility model. That's key,
Mm-hmm.
because I realize a lot of enterprises don't understand that, and when a breach happens, finger pointing happens,
Yep.
right? And here comes the structured, more established public cloud provider saying, nope, that's that's up to you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now,
Mm-hmm.
this is my shared responsibility model. Remember,
Yep.
so this is where I play, and this is where you play. You're like, oh, how can did you advise me? How come you didn't? So that's the after fact, right?
Mm.
So so that's one of the key areas that not just multi cloud. We need to know about what we need. Is your data? Are you a global company? Do you have uh, data residency issues? Where are you hosting? Is your company or your organization, are you government linked? You're not government linked. In that country, is GDPR approved, non GDPR approved? Now today it's a little bit more complex than before, right? Because it's about awareness. We know today what the threats out there today, and these governing bodies are there to protect us. So it's onus on us to know
Mm-hmm.
about it, have a team, have a representative that goes and sits and learns and explores and participates in these organizations. They have all to learn and nothing to lose,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I encourage you guys to go and join CSA in your local countries, join ISAC, right, and learn more, right, or
Mm-hmm.
create a team that they discuss this kind of stuff. We are fortunate in BAT because we have a very good, strong CISO organization,
Mm.
right? Right, that does a lot of work, right? That's the best of breed, and we have good strategic partners that advise us, right? But if you are small and you don't have that kind of budget and you're not a global company, you can learn from your local security chapters, right? Your
Mm.
local boutique guys, right?
Mm.
That are experts around security. Leverage, right? Always we need to learn to leverage, right? We have to think outside the box, right? And then data. If you ask me, besides, if you talk about hacking and coming in, what are they coming for? Your data,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? That's the heart and soul of it, right? So if you can secure your data, right, your information, your IP, right, and identify through data classification,
Mm.
right? What's most critical? What's not most critical? That could even help you strategize where you want to leave your data, because the most secure something is in a storage, it's most expensive. You being the storage guy, right? You
Mm-hmm.
you
Yep.
want the bells and whistles, it's
Mm-hmm.
it's tiered. If
Mm-hmm.
if you can do a very good data classification on your company's data, there's going to be data that you can put in cold storage,
Mm-hmm.
right? And this is where I think partners like yourself can do tiering. That's the
Mm.
fantastic thing about having Veeam is one of the companies I know that would sit across a multi-cloud platform, because
Mm-hmm.
you could move data anywhere across the multi-cloud, right? You could help tier, you could manage backups across multi-cloud in a single pane of glass. So
Mm-hmm.
imagine if I don't have something like a Veeam or a CMP, I gotta have multiples of the number of clouds to
Yep.
actually manage and visualize and analyze, right?
Mm. Mm.
Yeah. So that's one of the thing from security perspective. If
Mm.
I
Thanks.
may share, yeah.
Definitely, a lot of good information over there, and for our audience out there, right? A second reminder from kind of a constant reminder that's needed. Shared responsibility model on top of one size doesn't fit all for our cloud earlier on, right? So totally agree on the shared responsibility model, whereby data is still data is a core asset for any organization, right? But the responsibility of managing the data still belongs to the organization, whereby the service availability, that is where you can press your cloud service provider to be providing you that 6 or 7 nines of kind of availability from a service standpoint, right? So that is absolutely a great point. I'll just
Raymond, if I
probably
may add, Raymond,
yes,
if I
please.
may add, a simple understanding that I like to share
Mm,
on this security shared responsibility model, right? Take a
mm,
Tupperware,
uh,
okay? The cloud providers are responsible for the integrity of the Tupperware.
mm,
We are responsible for anything that we put inside the Tupperware.
ah,
Okay.
That is a really perfect analogy of
Yeah.
what is going
Yeah.
on in this multi-cloud environment and where the responsibility and
Yes.
roles come into the picture, right? Yeah,
Yeah. So
yeah,
that's what we got to be very aware, right? They will provide the nine A's, I mean the nine nines and stuff to
yeah.
protect that environment, right? But if we don't close a port, we do not encrypt. We actually have some vulnerabilities in the way we have done our network layer lies with us,
Mm,
right?
mm.
Okay. So sorry to
Absolutely.
yeah.
That's fine. That's fine. I wish that we can have this discussion. I think we're just getting the discussion into the tip of the iceberg of what scalability means, what agility means, and what multi-cloud means, right? But I'm time conscious. I do know that everyone out there has tons of virtual kind of meeting and virtual webinars that they have gone into. So with that, with the sharing and the interaction with Serene, we should have a good idea of why, what, and how a multi-cloud approach should looks like, right? And gratitude to Serene for joining us and giving us our feel is a no hold back kind of opinions and learnings on the multi-cloud strategy. All right, so that's really great over there on the sharing. So we have come to the tail end of our session, and once again, thank you and appreciate your time spent with us today. And we hope we have gained much needed ideas into this multi-cloud world that we are talking about, the multi-cloud journey, as much as myself and Sureen have enjoyed the conversation, right? And kind of
Yeah.
the chat that we have over here. All right. So with that, goodbye for now and stay safe. And I hope to see you guys the next time. Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Signing out.